Thank you very much for inviting me 2 days ago to attend the Women in Higher Education Leadership and Mentoring Conference that you're going to hold between the 16th and 17th in Southern Hotel in Oliver Tambo. Unfortunately, I'm not able to attend it. The reason is because I have been invited to give a keynote address, and I'm traveling today. So if you are able to, I would be happy you share these thoughts that I have with your audience, and thank you very much. The topic I wanted to raise are four. First, I was very surprised to find out that the period when Africans were enslaved were also the period when actually the resistance of women started for equality. It was quite interesting. It started around 1640 in the United States for gender equality. And that was also the same period when people were taken to the Americas from Africa, and they were also protesting against enslavement. So what I found very fascinating is the resistance against slavery and the resistance against gender inequality are similar. So there's a kind of unity for justice for all the people. I think gender discrimination, racial discrimination, any of this stereotyping diminish and all the people in the world. So in that sense, the equality of women and the equality of all the people is something we need to really work very hard. We have an extraordinary philosophy from India which says that the entire world is one humanity, is one human family. We shouldn't call some strangers and relatives, some slaves, some women are not equal to men. We should say we're all brothers and sisters, and we should go for one humanity. We should forget everything but our oneness, and the fact that when we are created, we should live without hurting each other, and making sure that ultimately when people go, how they come, they should go as we all have to go. So I think this new value, this new idea must be promoted. And in fact, the education system is one of the critical vehicles for doing this. But is it doing it? It isn't simply the question of representation of gender and people entering in management, in the leadership, in mentoring. It's generally the entire way by which the education system is conceptualized. My suggestion is that this entire system of education has to be rethought, redesigned, re-engineered, so that the uneducation we're getting through the education system now has to change, so that we have real, genuine education with really normative directions guiding it entirely, so that it moves along a direction where humanity as one is actually promoted. That is what we should probably work on. In fact, now we need to address critically important issues. One, how do we understand our spiritual heritage? How do we understand our knowledge heritage? How do we understand also our struggles to change that our women started in the 1640s. They went on in 1826, 1970, everywhere, in 1848, all these periods, there were different movements that they started to acquire different rights. And the rights didn't just come once. they came by bit. So if that is what's happening now, and it's not yet completed, that we, despite the fact that there are many students, you say that 60% of the students in the universities in South Africa are female, which is very fascinating. But if they are 60%, why are they not there in the leadership? Why are they not there in the entire way by which, in the teaching side? All these studies, what is the discrepancy? If they graduate, where do they go? What do they do? This is a very fascinating issue that we need to raise. So what I'm suggesting is that the entire way by which we have been thinking about even knowledge, our knowledge heritage, our spiritual heritage, our struggle heritage, has to be rethought, and this has to be redone. Now, even in South Africa, we have now the issue of what is called decolonizing the education system. And this is an interesting question. What it means is the kind of knowledge that we have taken always seem to exaggerate or value more knowledge that have come from outside, from not from what has been achieved through the long memory, through the long history from our own also Africa. But about Africa, Julius Caesar said, "Ex Africa semper aliquid new." Out of Africa comes always something new. Everything new, original, from humanity to all the knowledge systems that we have come from Africa. In fact, I can say to you about mathematics, about even physics, chemistry, about environmental sciences, in all these areas, the African contribution is extraordinary, but it's not put in the school system, including our philosophy. For example, the philosophies that are extremely rich, that may even save the whole of humanity, Ubuntu, Mad, Sankofa, all these things come from Africa, but we don't seem to value them. We don't seem to understand them. We don't seem to include them in the education system. So how do we address this extraordinary, important education, recurriculating the whole education system? How do we do it? Is an important issue. When we start doing that, we can also address the gender issue, the inequality issue, the ethnic issue, all these issues. For example, I don't understand why people divide each other with religion. You could have a family where some of them can be Muslims, others can be Christians, but still they are one family. This can happen. You could also have people who speak different languages. If they speak the language, whenever they speak that language, are you going to call them, if they speak English, they are English? If they speak French, they are French? No. I think we should really go above all these differentiations and come out with a value that we are human and humanity is one. And based on that, we should find real divisions of labor and everything that is necessary to make sure that people work together and move on in the right direction by supporting each other, working with each other, making sure that the well-being of the people, the well-being of nature matter more than anything else. Some new value, some new vision is extremely important like this in order to make any difference in all the divisions that we now have. It's not good to just calculate statistically how many men and how many women are as vice chancellors of the universities in South Africa or any other place. That's not the only interesting question. The most interesting question is to make it possible so that the entire system is fair and just and inclusive. And that is what we need to do. To do that, we need to revive and recurriculate the entire struggle heritage, the spiritual heritage as I described to you, and also the knowledge heritage. In all these things, if they come together, everything will be well. For example, how many of you know that the first university in the world was created in Africa by a woman in Africa? If the first university was created by a woman in Africa, why is it that women have not been included in all the universities? Why are they not done? This is not done. Why all this injustice? Why only say that women can only be mothers and wives and childbearers and nothing else? And, looking after a house? No, we should have a different value, a different understanding. and a different realization. If we understand the history, if the first university was created by a woman, why are women not in all the faculties, in all, as provosts, as vice chancellors, and so on, as chancellors? We have to really work on this in a fair and really with a meritocratic principle, so that everybody who is capable of doing it is not discriminated, and they come and they run and they support, not just themselves and the whole of humanity. I think that's the way the brief message I would like to suggest to you, and I hope this is so brief, and I really congratulate you for having this excellent conference, and continue to do it. And next time, if you tell me in advance, I'll prepare very strongly and bring and contribute, because this is an important issue that we really need to do, because we still are suffering from these deficiencies, and that they have to be rectified, and really all these problems have to be removed, so that we have a great civilization, a great humanity, onwards and forwards. We move on in the future to shape and invent a great future for all of us. Thank you very much.